What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Mount MoGraph and Summit 36. In today's video, we are going to be making a floppy text trick. So this is going to go over a really cool little effect that no one really uses in After Effects. It's like comes with it, which is fun, and I'll also show you two cool little tricks along the way. So definitely, I recommend using this technique in moderation. Don't do what I did in this opening video and just repeat it over and over and over, because someone will want to slap you. So don't do that. But use it in moderation, and it's a really good accent effect. So anyway, I'm going to play this for you and we'll jump into it. Alright, so there it is, and I couldn't think of very many 5-letter words, so I just I did some random stuff that didn't really make sense. So obviously there's some little glitches in here which I just made because I did it really quick, but yeah, there's some cool stuff like this little path layer effect and like the bee trail, and then these text wipes, which actually look pretty cool if you don't expect them. Like, that's what I'm saying, don't just go nuts and use them over and over and over. But yeah, so let's jump into it and make it. So you can definitely do this all in After Effects. I've just found that it is also very easy to do in Illustrator first, so let's do that. At least I will, you don't have to. And I'm going to make a new document, 1920 by 1080 for full HD. And we'll just start real quick by drawing an ellipse, holding shift for a circle, turn our awful stroke off, right, just like that, and let's pick a color. I'm going to go with a nice lime green, so something that we don't mind seeing for the duration of this video. So I'm just going to center this on my artboard, make sure it's not set to align to selection, but artboard, and get that all centered up. That looks great. And now we'll just go and create a new rectangle and actually create a new layer. And so what we're going to do is draw our square, actually not a rectangle, to the same size as our circle. So just mess around until this this locks up and looks great. And then we'll just name our bottom layer over here circle and just hide it because we don't need to see that for a while. So now that we have our square layer, let's just go ahead and duplicate this. So we'll just hold Alt and drag this out over here, hold Alt and drag it out over here. So that was pretty easy, and we have it all lined up. Then we'll just grab these all together and just go over here to your align panel and change align to selection, and then we're going to distribute it horizontally so they're all equal, just like that. So nudged over just a touch, looks great. I'm going to do Command G real quick just to group my layers together and get those centered up. So just going to grab that and then go back to align to artboard and center that in my composition, and then select all of them and do Shift Command G to ungroup them. So that was kind of stupid, but it nudged over a little bit when I distributed them, so I just wanted to fix that. So let's go and create some text for these boxes. So I'm just going to use Open Sans, which is actually my favorite font just because it's so legible. It's not like the most designery font or anything. I just like that you can always read it, you know, like you don't have to think, which is fantastic. So I don't know what words I'm going to do. I guess I'm going to go ABC and cat dog because I'm feeling like that today. So good luck watching this video because I don't know what's going to happen. So I got this fancy A here, and I'm just going to drag it over to the middle of my first box. Whoa, don't move. And just get this all centered up nice for us. So that looks good. I might drag it down just a touch. And we have our A here. Let's just change our color to something that is going to, I don't know, look a little bit more artsy. So I guess an orange. That doesn't really look that hot. But yeah, maybe I'll do like, ooh, that looks god awful. All right, we're going to go with a white because you can't really go wrong with that. And then I'll just hold Alt and drag this over to my second letter. Hold Alt and drag it to my next letter. And then I'm going to call this ABC. Well, you can really do whatever text. I'm just using this as an example. And so now what we're going to do is just call this first layer 1 and just go over here and select your little drop down menu and go to duplicate 1. So now we're going to have another layer, and we're going to call this layer 2. Just drag your selection marquee over these boxes here, and we're just going to change our colors to maybe like a nice yellow. A very startling yellow, just to throw everyone off. So that looks great, and then we'll select our text boxes here, and let's just make this kind of red, or orangey red, like a burnt red. And then I'm gonna just type dog, I guess. That's another 3-letter word. Look at me with that college education. dog and ABC. All right, so we got our other text boxes. Let's duplicate this one more time. So just go over here and wherever this button is, duplicate 2, and we're going to hide that and call this layer 3. So that's great, and we're just going to grab these top boxes and pick another color. Why don't we go with an icy blue? Because that is always fun. And maybe we will also grab, I don't know, maybe like a teal or something. Would a teal stand out? Kind of, or green? That looks cool, kind of like icy winter themed text, or maybe it's kind of whitey beige. I don't know. So we got that going on for us. That's good. Let's just separate this out the rest of the way. So what we're gonna do is just create a whole bunch of new layers. Don't worry about how many right now. And make sure all your layers are hidden except for this first layer. So 3 is what we're working on, so our dog layer. And just with your selection marquee, drag over both of these. And it's actually going to highlight both the D and the path beneath it. And what we're going to do is just grab this little square and drag it up to the top here. And that's going to move our D, and our D is now up there. And we're going to do this for our O. And basically just repeat this over and over and over. So now we have our dog set up, and I'm going to hide these layers and delete this 3. And now I'm going to turn on my 2 layer and do the same thing. Oh, you know what? I got to switch these texts. I had dog twice. So I guess this one is going to turn into cat. Once again, college education coming in strong for me. And I will just do this and drag all these guys onto their new homes. So I'll delete this layer. Looks great. Turn on my next layer and hide my cat layer and ABC. So yeah, this is a very kid-friendly video. And we are just going to now have all of our layers nice and separated and delete it. Check that out. That looks awesome. Have you ever seen a layer panel look this phenomenal? Probably not. So let's go into our file here and go to our document color mode and make sure it's set to RGB so it can import into After Effects properly, because we're not printing this, even though we should. So I'm going to save this to my desktop just as maybe Words document. That looks great. And let's go jump into After Effects and get the rest of this video going. So I'm going to just import this, Command I on my keyboard, and go to my desktop and grab my words, and make sure you have your import as set to composition and retain layer sizes. And we're just going to say open, and oh crap, did I do this wrong? No, I did this right. That is fantastic. All right, so we got our words. I'm just going to open this words layer, and there our words is, and they're all separated just like we wanted. That is great. Let's create a background here. So do Command Y on your keyboard. And well, let's think of a good color. So let's go with a purple. I'm going to make it the same color as this layer panel, because it was inspiring. So I got that going, and there it is, a nice purple. I'm just going to call this layer BG for background, and drag this layer beneath all my other layers and hope the contrast is not horrible. So I'm going to also just lock this background layer so I can't click it and mess it up. And yeah, there we go. We got our guy all set up and ready to go. So let's grab our first couple paths here and just hide them, because we don't need to see them. And remember how we had this wonderful circle? I'll show you what we're going to use with this. So you could use a shape path in After Effects if you want, but I found this way is the easiest way to get this nice effect. Additionally, we are going to be using the Ease and Whiz script and the Move Anchor Point script, which can both be downloaded in the video description, and they're really fun and really nice. So that's great. So let's right click our circle layer and just go to create shapes from vector path. So from vector layer. And I guess this is only available in the Creative Cloud version. So I apologize if you do not have that. However, you can just draw a circle and be right on path with the rest of us. So I'm going to delete my circle layer, and just with my circle outline selected, actually not selected, I'm going to find my square. So there is my square. I think, is that my square layer? Oh gosh, we have done wonderful things here. So actually, let's go back to our Illustrator real quick, and just on our ABC layer, let's actually delete these, I think. So I'm going to delete my A, B, and C, and we're just going to roll with cat dog, and I'll show you why in a second. You don't have to do that. I just think it'll look cooler if we don't do that. So if I save this, it's going to dynamically link back to After Effects, because we had it separated in layers, so it's gone, and no harm was done. So that's good. Sorry about that, guys. And so I'm just going to find that square layer and actually just... Why is this not centered anymore? So I'm just going to move this to be centered with my square here. And on my square layer, I'm going to turn my opacity down just enough so I can see the circle beneath it, and then lock that layer. So I'm going to zoom in, and what I'm first going to do is just press S to bring up my scale tool on my, scale properties on my circle outline layer. Press it for 100%, and then just go backwards in time and turn this down to 0. So that is interesting. It's just going to kind of pop up there. I'm going to grab these keyframes and just go to my ease and whiz, and I'm going to go to back, which means it's going to like spring back and set my type to out, and then press apply. So that adds an expression to this layer. I've talked about it in other videos, but this is now going to make it look very exciting, and it kind of bounces in and has a nice movement to us all with one click. So that's great. So now just go forward to that last keyframe you worked on, so J or K depending on where you are in your timeline. So K to go to here, and what we're going to do is hold Command and click this arrow to toggle down all our properties and set a keyframe on our path, and then come back to the top here with U just to see all our keyframed properties, and hold your keyboard, and on your keyboard hold Shift and press page down twice to go forward 10 frames. Select your path layer, and let's just get our path layer working. Where is my path layer? This sometimes happens. Let's see. Oh, there it is. All right, so get your path layer up here. And what we're going to do is just grab this top one over here, hold Shift, and just drag over, if you can grab it. Just hold Shift and drag over till you're about at the top of this square here. And what I'm actually going to do is also turn down the opacity of my circle just so I can see what's going on. And then I will zoom in a little bit just to see. And this doesn't have to be perfect, but as you can see, it's now going to slide over. Very nice for us. So just press J to go backwards and make sure you're on that keyframe. Hold Shift and press page down once. So that's going to go forward 5 frames. Select your path layer, and this is once again going to be turning into a repetitive process that turns out kind of cool. So now what I'm going to do is just make sure this is at the edge of my square here, and press Alt and Command at the same time on your keyboard to bring up your anchor point tool, and we're just going to drag down like this. So now when I play this, it kind of has a nice little pop to it. Obviously you can do this better, but this is just for learning purposes today. So let me do Shift and do page down twice to move forward 10 frames, and we're going to repeat this process for this next frame. So I'm going to hold Shift and drag down on my path here until it pops out a little bit over the corner. Press Shift page down once, and press Alt and Command at the same time to bring up my anchor point tool and just move this guy over just like that too. So that looks good. So Shift page down twice to move forward 10 frames, and let's move this anchor point or vertex or whatever you call it. Yeah, I think it's an anchor point. Shift page down one more time for 5 frames, Alt and Command, and we're just going to drag this one like that, and do Shift page down twice, and let's get this next one. So I'm going to drag this guy up over here. That looks great. Shift page down for 5 frames, Alt and Command, and we're going to drag this one like that. So now we've created a wonderful square for us to enjoy. So let's see how this is looking. It's going to pop up, and now it's going to kind of morph itself to fit, and that looks kind of interesting. It's a little different, but it's an easy way to do that, so that looks fantastic. I'm just going to go forward to this last keyframe by pressing K on the keyboard, and what I'm going to do is select that layer and do Alt forward bracket to cut that layer, and then I'm going to go to my square layer here and do Alt back bracket. So at this point in time, it's going to look like this circle has just turned into a square perfectly, and there's going to be like, your eye won't really catch that if it's moving, so that's going to be our sneaky way to do that. Let's press T on our keyboard to bring up our opacity, and just make sure both of those are back up to 100. And so now that we have that set up, we should probably make this just a touch more interesting. So once again, with our ease and whiz script, we're just going to grab these keyframes here and just maybe set it to like a quad and an in and out. So that's just kind of, gotta set it to curvaceous because it is a mask path. So we'll set apply, and just that'll make our movement a little bit more interesting. So now we kind of have a little jelly effect that looks all right. And so it kind of makes a square. You can make this more interesting, but I kind of like that it looks like it rolls. So now if your eye probably didn't even catch that, it shifted to the square. Like there's a little pop, and you can mess around with that, but that's a nice little sneaky way to do it. So now that we have our square, we should probably bring out our other buddies of this square. So I'm going to make these visible, and there our squares are. So what I'm going to do is just go to, I'm going to zoom in real quick here and just go forward on my timeline and actually cut those layers as well. So Alt back bracket to cut these layers to the same time, and just go forward a bit to, let's call it like a second or so. And on these layers, I'm going to press P to bring up the position properties and set a keyframe, and then go backwards in time and just do this center. So just click Align to Layers to Selection and just click Center, and that's going to pop it right in the middle perfectly. So then we'll grab these two layers and go and set our movement, turn off curvaceous, go to your easing and set it to like a quint or something, and set Apply. And so what this is going to do is just make it look like they pop out from behind our little jelly square in a nice and interesting way. So boom, now we have a whole bunch of squares. Now what we can do is flip these squares into other squares, since we love squares here. So how we're going to do this is using a very unused effect called CC Twister, which is fun to do. So I'm going to do CC Twister is what I'm going to type, and let's just drag our CC Twister onto our layer 6. And what this is going to do is enable you to actually flip your object very easily. And you can actually turn off the shading if you don't like that effect, but you know, it depends on what kind of look you're going for and what is on the backwards side of this. So how we're going to link this up to the backwards side, and this is why I built it in Illustrator so everything was aligned right, is just go and find what our next paths are. Whoa, why is this not lined up perfectly? That's obnoxious. So we're just going to press P and just get these aligned a little bit better for us. So there we go. That looks fixed. It should have imported, right? But I guess it didn't, whatever. And so here, what we're going to do is, so we want our C layer, which is 10. So it goes 10, 9, and 8. We're going to just align these to our other layers. So actually what we're going to do is hide these layers. That's how the effect works. You have to have them hidden. So then on 7, we should have our CC Twister on there. Oh yeah, we got to drag it onto our 7. So on 7, we're going to want layer 10 for the C. So I'll just switch this to 10. And let's double check, and there it is. We have our C. How easy is that? And it looks totally cool. So let's see if we turn our shading off, how that looks. That's kind of interesting. The shading makes it look a little bit better, but actually I'm going to go without shading just to do a little different thing. So I'm just going to press 0 on my keyboard, and let's just set a keyframe here. So right after our objects have slid out, let's keep that motion going. So just click the completion and set a keyframe, and then go forward just a little bit and turn your completion up to 100 to flip to that C. So I'm going to toggle this layer down and press U to see how that looks, and let's just check that speed. So that looks pretty nice. Let's grab these keyframes and go into our Ease and Whiz and set it to assign, and just click apply, and let's see how this is looking. So that looks very nice. So let's do this. So let's grab our CC Twister here and do Command C on your keyboard, and just on your next layer, so your 6th layer, we're just going to move it to about halfway through that transition and do Command V, and that's going to paste the keyframes of our CC Twister onto that layer, and we're going to do the same one for our next layer. So go about halfway between and do Command V. And this is just an easy way to paste the keyframes with the expressions, and then all we're going to have to do is just switch what layer it's corresponding to. So this one's going to actually be 8, or was it 9? Yeah, this one would actually be 9, and then this one would actually be 8. And there we go. So now when I play it through, I have my cat. So that's pretty fun. So that's a nice little transition, I think, and it looks pretty cool. Definitely like not expected if you haven't seen it before. So that's a nice way to kind of up your game. So let's go and do the next transition, which is also kind of cool. And this is just going to be where we actually flip the entire word at once. And it's actually a little odd to do it. It's not quite what you expect. So what we're going to do is, if we make these layers visible, it messes everything up. So let's duplicate these layers, Command D on your keyboard, and just drag these above the other layers here, and just get those, or don't drag them if it won't, and do Shift Command C to pre-compose them. And I know this layer is cat, so I'm going to call it cat. And what we're going to do is also maybe change the color just so it sticks out a little bit better. And so now on this cat layer, we're going to do the same trick where we actually cut all of our frames. So just drag all your layers and do Alt forward bracket to cut them. And then on your cat layer, we're going to do Alt back bracket to cut it. So let's just zoom in, because it always cuts one frame late. For some reason, there's always an overlap, and we don't want that. So Yeah, so now we have our cat, and you can't even tell it switches. Actually, you can. I need to make these visible, so make sure they're visible, otherwise you're not going to see them. So there we go, and they jumps up for some reason. That is so annoying. So I'll just fix this guy. Or maybe I'll drag it back. Man, I don't know why it's doing that. That's stupid. So I'm just going to try to line this up a little bit better. Get my cat nice and aligned. Just so this effect looks better. You can spend way more time on it if you choose to. We'll call that good, even though it's not, but we'll pretend it's perfect. And just cut this layer to where we needed it. And let's grab our other layer, which I believe was dog, and just use Shift Command C to pre-compose this and just call this layer dog. And then also cut that layer and make it so it's not visible. And then on your cat layer, you're just going to throw your CC twister on there and select your dog layer, and then also turn shading off. And maybe you can also change your axis or axis point, and that just is the rotation of that layer when it spins. So you can do some other interesting stuff, and I'll just turn this up to 100. So yeah, we'll just go halfway through this effect, and if I rotate this, you'll see it's going to rotate from different sides. So I mean, you can even like switch on each letter, do a different direction, which we might go back and do in just a second. And we're almost to the cool stuff. Sorry if this video's dragging, guys. I'm going to grab these keyframes and just set like a court movement and in and out, just click apply. So it's a little bit more interesting. Yeah, so that's all right. It's not too fancy. We might go from a different angle and see if that looks better. And I'm going to get rid of that jump one way or another. Yeah, that looks cool. So now we have that set up. We're just going to try to line these up here. So why are you guys not working perfectly? That's very annoying. So I'm going to move these down with my keyframe or with my position, just until they line up hopefully a little bit better. They're not really, but yeah, I guess that is what it is for this one. I don't really know why. Maybe it's because I pre-composed them and that's what messed it up, but who knows. So that looks cool. So now we have our little dog transition, and I'm just going to grab all these layers and press T and make sure my opacity is turned up all the way, which I think it actually was it? Yeah, where is this layer? What did I do with that? Oh, circle outlines. My opacity is turned all the way up? That's crazy. Oh, I guess it's like a weird color. Huh. Looks totally, all right, I'll stop talking. I'm being stupid. Yeah, so we got that all set up. Now what we should probably do is pre-compose all of this together. So just do Shift Command C, and we're just going to call this main, and then just throw a drop shadow on there to get that nice kind of Wes Anderson look to our animation. So I'll drop that drop shadow on here. Just go forward a bit. That looks pretty nice. It's always nice to add just a little bit of extra color on that, even if it's subtle. So I'm going to turn this down to maybe like 14. So it's hardly even noticeable, but I think it'll just add to our whole little animation. So yeah, you can spend some time tweaking this and get a cooler effect, but that whole path layer trick is kind of cool. And yeah, that stupid jump is very annoying. So I hope you guys can fix that, but this is basically it. And the other thing I wanted to show you in today's video is going to be like that little B path, which is actually super easy to do, but it's a nice effect. So let's press G to bring up our pen tool here. And just make sure your fill is turned off and turn your stroke on. And what we're going to do is just draw a crazy path. And really just whatever you want. You can, make it look awesome, make it look junky. In my case, I'm making it as junky as possible. So yeah, there we go. We have this awesome path that looks like a child made it. So that's fantastic. And what we're going to do is just hold Command and click this arrow to toggle down all of our options and go down to your dashes option right here and just click plus. And that's going to add dashes to our path here. And I'm going to turn these dashes up a little bit so they're longer. Maybe something like that looks great. And now in your little add properties right here, let's add a trim paths. So I'm going to click trim paths and toggle this guy down. And we're just going to turn our end down quite a bit. Where is it? Let's see. So I'm going to want my end set to like 6% or so. And I'm actually going to make these dashes a little bit shorter. There we go. Something like that. And then all we're going to do is animate our where is it, offset here. So just click Command for your offset, and when you go up to 100, it's going to look like it's just crawling along that whole path. So that's kind of fun. And there it is. So yeah, I'll just put it up over there and toggle out if I can. So there it is. There's our shape path. And obviously you can just set another expression on here. So just with your ease and whiz, go to like Expo for really fast. And let's see how that's looking. Well, it starts at a bad time. It starts right in frame, but you can, yeah. So then you can just put this layer behind your main layer and get some interesting movement just behind your animation. If you want to slow this down, because that looks pretty intense. It might look kind of cool. So who knows? It looks like a little worm. And that's just a fun effect. And there you go. You got a cat dog in no time at all. So this was Matt from Mount Mograph, and this was the floppy text effect, or what did I call this guy? The floppy text trick. So anyway, guys, hope you had fun. Like this video or subscribe to the channel. Leave me a comment if you feel generous. And yeah, guys, thanks for checking it out, and get your learn on. Peace out.